Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melda Production, and today I'm going to be going over MNoisegenerator. Last week I went over this and I showed you the basics, how to create colored noise. But this time I'm going to show you how to make a more involved riser and also how to enhance your drums using MNoisegenerator. So let's get started. So I have this set up, I have it bypassed, but if I turn it on, it's just going to create white noise like this. So to get started with a riser, let's create just the basics first. So what we're going to do is just go in here, just like last time, clear and learn, move my wet around. Now in here, you'll see it'll go to, let's say, negative 10.6, I guess. Now, last time I showed you how to use this LFO, but this time let's use the envelope. What I'm going to do is first turn the projection off because that's going to add some LFO stuff in there. We don't want that. Next, switch this to MIDI. Now we can move the attack however we want, like here, I guess. Let's play a note on our MIDI keyboard. Make sure you have your MIDI channel set here, going into your keyboard. And also, if you don't use a DAW like Reaper, where you can put this and the MIDI on the same track, make sure you have a separate MIDI track to control your keyboard, and it'll send from that MIDI track into MNoisegenerator. Anyways, if you have all that set up, make sure you switch to MIDI, make sure it's on here, it's enabled, and now press a button. Whenever I press a key, it's going to start this. What we can do is just set this attack to whatever we want. In this case, let's say our song, we want to do 2 measures. So here, that's 5,333.3 milliseconds here. And we can set the release to whatever we want. Let's say we set that to an 8th note, so 333 here. Press the button. And that's making it fade out. We can make it fade out longer if we want. So instead of an 8th note, let's try a quarter note here. 666. I don't like that. Let's try this. There we go. That sounds better. That's kind of a bad omen. Actually, we can actually set this lower. And if we want this, we can use the decay for that time. So let's try 8th note. That sounds better. One thing I'm noticing is right down here until it gets to about maybe like 3 seconds or so, you can barely even hear that. So if we want this to come up faster, there's 2 ways we can do it. We can go through here, which is easy enough, but I think a better way might be to use this transformation shape. I think this might use a little bit more CPU, but it might be easier in this case for a reason I'll show you in a second. So we have this. Now let's hear it. That's sounding better. So there is our basic riser, but I know you're saying like, hey, you told me to do something more interesting. You showed me this last time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add some EQ here. So let's try setting this. Let's bring this gain up here. It's like 12 decibels or so. Let's increase the Q to something. Now, as I play this, actually, let's turn this mod off here for a second. Turn the wet up, and let's move the frequency around. So you can hear that creates an interesting effect. To get even more interesting effects, let's use the harmonics to bring up some of these, like this. Bring up the Q a little bit too. So now let's hear it. That's sounding pretty good. And the only other thing I want to do is I just want to add a low pass filter for those really high parts. So let's stick that up there, maybe 2 decibels per octave. Maybe about like 10,000 kilohertz, or 10 kilohertz, I should say. That's 11, but that's okay. So this way, you're not really hearing things up here. I think that sounds better. And when we go back here, we'll just move it around a bit so you can hear what it's saying. Now, this is cool, and we set it here, and we'll turn the MIDI back on and can trigger that by MIDI. Now, you should be able to hear like some of this here, but we want like that movement, and I don't want to use my mouse. So let's use another mod here to control this. But what I can do here is, actually, let's copy this since we have all these settings already. Copy. Let's paste this here. And what I want to do next is, instead of using whatever this is, dry here, I want to use the frequency here. So I'm going to right click this, click learn, and move my frequency around. Turn that off. Now this dries here. I don't know. I think it's by default. We can just erase that if we want. Set the value, let's say 100 going to 1,000, like this. So now, if I have both these enabled, when I press this, the wet signal should come up, the white noise, and also this should move up here, like this. Sounding pretty good, but you notice as it got to the top, it goes, Whew! I don't want that. The reason I have these on different mods is because of that problem. So instead of having this decay at 333, we could have that, but we can actually set this to like 10 milliseconds and set this to like 333. Or let's try, yeah, 333. Good. That should be pretty close. So now it's just going to pause at the top like this. Here we go. And so that's, I think, a good thing for the riser. If you want longer, you could put longer decay time if you want. But to me, that's sounding pretty good. If you want to reverse that so it doesn't go from top to bottom, just click invert here. And now it should go from 1,000 down like this. Now, of course, I'm only using one here, but you could use other nodes here. So you could do other EQ things. You don't even have to use the peak filter all the time. You could use notch filters if you want here. That's kind of interesting. You can do the same thing with the harmonic. Actually, I'm not sure if you can do the same thing with the harmonics. You can do band pass, etc. So there's lots of different things you can do with this. So it's not just, one specific thing here. There's a lot of creative things you can do with this. Okay, so next, let's get into drums. I'm going to go to default here. Just turn this back. Turn that off. Now, I have some snare drums here. Let's bypass this and let's hear the snare drum. There we go. Now, if we unbypass this, if we turn the dry signal all the way up, we'll be able to hear that still. What I want to do is I want to have a white noise play every time the snare drum hits. This is like an old 80s thing, I believe. And it kind of just gives more power to your snare drum, or any drums really. So let's get into it. What we want to do is we want to use a mod again, and we want the mod to control our wet signal. So I just click clear and learn, move this up. Let's try this at maybe -12 at the beginning. We don't want this LFO because it's going to sound like this. Don't want that while our snare drum's playing. What we want to do is we want to use the follower. We can also use the envelope. I'll show you that afterwards, but now we'll use the follower. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the level min and max. Set the level max at the top of whatever peak it is. Turn this projection off. And we can adjust the attack and release to our taste. I like to take the RMS length and turn that all the way down, but set that wherever you want. So let's adjust the level minimum and maximum as we listen to it. So turn it on, play. There we go. So you can hear this going, and if we look here, you can see the wet signal. Now you might want to adjust that. I put some delay on there, but you actually don't need that. You might want to use the hold. It depends on you. And sometimes you want to adjust the actual max level here because you might think, oh, it's too low or too high. So let's do that till we find a level that we think sounds good. This is blending somewhat well, so I think that's good. The next thing we want to do is you'll notice it doesn't really blend that well because there's too much high end. And you can really sculpt the sound in here using this. We can use our filters. So let's try a 24 decibel per octave here. And let's try moving this down as we play to find something where it blends in a little bit better. That's sounding pretty good. You can also use the Q if you want to emphasize a certain frequency, like this. Let's sweep around again. To me, that's sounding pretty good. It almost sounds like some extra snare chains on there. So let's listen to it before and after. Oh, geez. Accidentally hit something and didn't mean to hit. Let's go and reverse. There we go. So before and after. There you go. And of course, try this with other things like the pink noise. You're probably going to have to increase it like this. But some of the other ones too, like the clicks and pops or stares, can sound interesting as well, especially if you turn the probability down. So there's a lot you can do with that. Now I'll show you. You can do the same thing with a bass drum. So let's turn that on here. We have our bass drum. Let's move this. Let's bypass this just so we can hear the bass drum. So we already have this set up. Let's go back to our white noise here. Turn this down. See how this sounds. No, that's good, but for a bass drum, I may not want to have that much high end. So we can go and move this down again like this. And we can also get rid of some of the low end like this. So let's add a high pass filter here. Let's move the low end first while we play it. Okay, now let's hear it back with the bass drum. We can even bring this down more if we want. By bringing this down, you can actually hear the sound. Maybe want less of that high-end click. Okay, let's add the bass drum back in. And we can do the same thing with our low end here. So just take our high pass filter and bump that up like this. So you can hear it's adding a little bit of something in there. And of course, you can adjust this however you want. But using this, you can kind of choose the frequency you want to enhance. I'd probably look at the bass drum under a spectrogram and find out, oh, what is it hitting at? So maybe if it's hitting at, let's say 90, I might want to put this harmonic here, or the low pass filter, high pass filter, I should say, at like 180 or so, just so it's emphasizing that like first harmonic. And then just move this low pass filter here until like you're getting the right amount of, I don't know, fake beater sound, etc. Anyway, this is just an easy way to kind of enhance your drums. You can try it on different drums too. It's really easy, it's fast, and kind of fun too. You can experiment with some of the other ones too to get kind of different textures. But hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Leave me any questions or comments down below, and check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Till next time, see you.